Hello and welcome to the Curiosity Quest podcast. My name is Natasha Schulmeister and I am your host. And today's episode is going to get a little bit uncomfortable. Oof. Today's episode is on the biggest fear, as per research and science, that people struggle with. And I wonder if anybody can guess it before I say something. I'm going to give you one hint. It is not clowns, which shocked me personally because I'm terrified of clowns. I will reveal what the second biggest one is at the end of the show, if you want to try and guess that as well. But it is also, disclaimer, not clowns. I wanted to do this episode, though. I wanted to do this episode because I am really excited to start bringing guests on to start talking about the nuances of fear, of purpose, of exploration, of spirituality, of music, all of these things. And so I'm working hard to bring some of the nuances in first as a little sneak peek into my brain, and then we can dive deep into somebody else's brain together, which I absolutely love. I love having guests on this podcast. If you are somebody who's wanting to be on the podcast, if you have a big topic that you'd like to discuss, maybe it's sexuality, maybe it's whatever. Sky is not the limit. Sky is not the limit. Oh my gosh, what is the limit? The limit does not exist. That's the limit. Okay. Whatever it might be, I'd love to hear from you. Send me in a message and I'd love to consider it and talk about it and get to know it a little bit better. See if it's something that I feel like I can sit with and hold space for. I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best on this curiosity quest to keep my heart and my mind as open as possible and to stretch. Some of these ideas that have come through have been a stretch, and I love it. I love it because I feel as though the more I stretch myself, the more expansive the world becomes around me, and the calmer I am when people have differentiating beliefs from me, different beliefs, different values, different thoughts. I'm not feeling triggered or resistant or angry anymore. At times, for sure, but it's not my first instinct, and that's what I'm aiming to do with this podcast. That's what I'm aiming to do with these conversations, is just help us continue growing and evolving as people, and hopefully we can learn together that safe conversation is possible even if we don't agree on things. So without further ado, the biggest fear amongst people is death. Specifically the fear of one's own death. And there's actually a name to this. Okay, don't come at me if I'm saying this wrong. Thanatophobia. And it's spelled Thanatophobia. So phonetically, which is how I pronounce everything, thanatophobia. We're going with it. We're rolling with it. Studies show this fear is deeply ingrained in human psychology due to the survival instinct and our own awareness of mortality. So for me, what's really interesting about this, I do have this tiny hint of fear when it comes to my own death. It's in my chest. I don't know if anybody else feels it there. Maybe you feel it somewhere else in your body. I'd love to hear where you feel your fear when you start to think about life ending for you. I feel this like tinge in my chest. It's a little burst of anxiety, and it kind of just stays around my heart, which is really interesting for me to think about and navigate. And yet I also feel a sense of peace, which has only come in the past few years. I'm not sure if I've talked about it on this podcast before, but I've definitely spoken about this in public and on my social medias. I do want to become a death doula. I want to support people through end of life. And to do that, I have to be able to hold space when it comes to the topic of death and our own mortality. So this is something that is actually really interesting to me altogether. And I wasn't expecting this. I didn't pick this episode because of this. Just to be clear, I did not know that that was the biggest fear. I was actually expecting public speaking to be the biggest fear, and yet it's death. So, I mean, that makes sense. That makes sense. It's quite permanent as far as we know. My sense of peace, I would say, I think that's what it is. I don't know if I entirely understand what that feeling is, to be honest with you, that I have, but I'm going to call it peace because that's the only word that's coming to my mind. My sense of peace, I'm doing air quotes, comes with this, I suppose, acceptance and understanding of the many different things that could be possible after I die. So in an atheist's view, nothing. When you die, that is it. And there's something about that to me sounds really calm, not scary. And it used to be scary to me. Infinite, like just being like nothing anymore at all whatsoever was scary to me until I started doing more meditations and breath work and breath holds. And I finally was able to sit with a breath hold for a long period of time without any tension. And I just could feel air around me and moving through me, but no, I wasn't breathing. And I remember that first time I did it feeling so calm, and in my head thinking, if this is what death is, I could be okay with this. It was the first time that I had been not breathing where I wasn't panicking. And that brought me a lot of peace. I'm going to keep saying peace of mind when it came to the idea that nothingness could be there. I also believe there's a spectrum of things that could happen because nobody can go all the way to death and come back. That we've had near-death experiences, right? And yet, nobody really knows. So it could be anything, which is really special and exciting. In some way, it's special and exciting to me. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Maybe it's not special and exciting. And I'd also love to hear where you feel it in your body. Is it also in your chest? Do you feel it anywhere else? Do you have like specific thoughts that pop into your head? Like, are there specific phrases that come into your head? I want to know everything. Tell me everything. Okay, so why people struggle with this fear? This is what research has shown so far. This fear is linked to our existential anxiety. The realization that life is finite and the uncertainty surrounding what happens after death creates a sense of helplessness. Yeah, okay, that makes sense of where my anxiety comes from. Because there's nothing else in life that we experience that is so permanent outside of losing somebody else, right? I mean, the permanence of death is unlike anything else we experience. I'm not sure there's anything else I can think of that's genuinely permanent. Even tattoos, you can get removed, right? So I just think about the permanence of it and how intense that is, considering we have no development around anything being permanent. Nothing is permanent. And the further away we get from things being long-term and permanent, the more underdeveloped we become. Underdeveloped is it's a new word, okay? I'm just deciding. Okay, another part to this is, for many, the fear can stem from unresolved grief, religious or spiritual uncertainty, or an inability to accept mortality as a part of life. See, and I get the inability to accept mortality because, again, outside of death, where else do we have to accept something like this? And we don't talk about it in Western culture. Other cultures talk about it. And I don't say all of them. I don't want to paint that brush. I don't want to paint that with that brush. I'm having struggles today, okay? Yeah, but how do you accept the permanence of death when you've never experienced permanence before? And our first, I guess, experience with grief would be our first major loss, which nobody teaches us how to understand. Nobody talks about. We're very avoidant in Western culture when it comes to talking deeply about our confusion and chaos that we experience in grief. And then religious and spiritual uncertainty. That doesn't necessarily mean you need to have a religion or you need to be spiritual. That is just as much atheism, and having a deep understanding of atheism as it is Christianity, if that's your thing, or Buddhism, or whatever that looks like for you. I really do believe if you have an understanding and a connection with some type of community and acceptance around what could happen after death based on that community, it can really support you. So for me, for example, I actually felt better not having rigidity around the structure of what could happen after death. That felt better for me personally. I don't love the idea that it's 100% going to be one thing when I'm not certain that it's 100% going to be one thing. And that's how my brain functions. So for me, it actually feels relieving and digestible to know that there's quite a few different options and to have an understanding of all of those options. Not that that means that those are what's going to happen. I mean, it could be none of the things that I expect to happen that happen, and yet I still feel calm knowing that I have a pretty okay idea of the expansiveness of options here, and for the most part, I can accept them and walk into them and be okay with that. So yeah. I can understand also a lot of people don't like the expansiveness of ideas and are probably the opposite. Are you the opposite of me? Would you prefer there's one? And if so, then maybe that's an opportunity for somebody listening to look into the different options and see what really fits and feels good, and then just invest time into getting to know what those are. You have time to trial and error and find what works for you and makes sense for you. And there's no shame in that. Anybody who shames you for having a belief about what happens after death is not well, in my opinion, considering nobody knows. Science doesn't know. Nobody, not one person on this planet genuinely knows what happens after death. Not one. So for anybody to shame you about what you believe to happen, it's silly and it makes no sense because they don't know. And them shaming you is from likely a place of fear. So dream it up, figure it out, and do your thing. Okay, responses to this fear. Ooh, this is interesting. Avoidance. Yes. Examples are ignoring death or focusing on distractions. I feel like that's most of people's lives. Ignoring it altogether until it's in your face, and even then avoiding it somehow. A lot of my clients who are grief clients have used something else as a distraction from the loss that they experienced. Either they hyper-focused in on education or work or some other hobby. They just became hyper-fixated on what that was, and that is an avoidance tactic. Okay, next one up is anxiety or panic. That's me. That's me in my chest. Some people experience extreme fear when confronting mortality. Yeah, that would be like a panic attack. I don't quite have panic attacks. I don't even know why I said I don't have panic attacks about it. But I do experience anxiety in my chest. Denial, refusing to acknowledge the reality of death. Yeah. I wonder if any of you struggle with denial. I'd love to hear more context around this and a broader view if you're open to it. If you're not, that's okay. But if you are, I would love to sit and listen and hold space for it. The reason I'm asking for that, and I'm not sure if I haven't because I haven't been faced with a moment prior to death hoping that it wasn't real. So I think maybe that might be a potential reason I've never felt denial towards death. Well, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, when I was a kid, I used to play vet. That was my game with my best friend Elliot. We used to play vet, and we used to save every animal, no matter what they came in with, no matter what happened. We could save every single animal of all time. We were the best vet surgeons on the planet. That was our game, and we played it for years. And I actually wanted to be a vet when I grew up until my dad sat me down and told me, and gosh, I wish I remembered how old I was. I think I might have been 12. In any case, he told me that I wouldn't be able to save every animal and that some of them I would have to put down because that was the right thing to do. That was the humane thing to do. And sometimes I'd have to put animals down because that's what somebody wanted me to do and paid me to do. And sometimes I'd have to put them down because that's all that the person could afford to do. And I couldn't accept that. I was devastated by the fact that I couldn't save every animal. And it really shook me to the point where I decided I would not be a vet anymore. And then I didn't become a vet. So I guess that's a form of denial now that I'm thinking about it. However, I've never had it about my own death. Is that weird? Oh my gosh, now that I'm thinking about it, I feel like that's a little bit weird. I've never had a feeling of denial about the fact that I'm going to die, because I will. In fact, I've probably almost thought I probably will die young or really old. Like that's where my brain is. It fluctuates. But when it comes to things that I really care about dying, I had denial. And I guess I might still have denial. I'm working on not having denial around family members passing and my dog passing, though. And something that I've been working on frequently with myself is reminding myself that I won't always have the opportunity to reach out. I won't always have the opportunity to spend time with or love deeply in this specific way these individuals and these beings. And so just continuously reminding myself of that so that I can remember to call my grandparents and check up on them every week if I can, and then call my mom every other day and talk to my dad and my stepmom every week, and touching base with my siblings and making sure that I'm investing genuine quality time with my partner and giving my dog love and kisses before bed every night, and doing these things because I constantly am reminding myself that I will not have these beings in this way forever. For me, specifically, I do believe that you can have a relationship with things you've lost after they've gone. I do believe that. Me personally. I'm not saying anybody else has to believe that. There's no pressure in believing that. However, something that's really important to remember when you lose something, the relationship's different. You will never have the relationship that you had when they were physically present. It's the same as if somebody left your life and came back 10 years later. It's not the same relationship. So it's more about accepting the difference and the differences of that relationship and how you can move forward and building a new relationship around the new structure and format of it. Maybe that piece helps somebody. I'm not sure. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I wanted to share that just in case. And then the last part of this is existential reflection. So engaging with philosophy or spirituality to find meaning, which is really interesting because that's positive. So not all responses to the fear are negative. And I'd say the existential reflection part is where I have been living more frequently of late. It's not to say that I will always be there, and it's not to say I won't experience avoidance or anxiety and panic or denial like more times throughout my life. You know, I'm always open to things changing, and I just have to surrender into that. But yeah, it has caused me to reflect existentially quite a bit, and that's been really fun, especially talking to other people about it. So again, if you have feedback and you want to conversate, please hit me up. Can you actually overcome this fear? Okay. My thoughts are no. I haven't read this yet. My thoughts are no. I don't believe you can fully overcome the fear. However, and leaving room for this to be wrong. While it's challenging to completely overcome the fear of death, many people can learn to manage it. See, okay, I was right. Ish. Strategies like mindfulness, acceptance, and finding meaning through spirituality or legacy work can help people live more fully without being consumed by the fear. So to me, that sounds like, let me know your thoughts. To me, that sounds like you won't be completely absent of fear. However, you can get to a place where the fear exists and confidence and grounding can exist. So you can be scared and do it anyways. Kind of like that. Or, yeah, and I think that's good though. I feel like that's part of the human condition. That's part of our human experience, and it's really necessary to still have fear. I don't know if it's ever about completely eliminating anything ever. I don't feel as though there's a place where I understand fear being completely eliminated as a human, or anxiety being completely eliminated, or anger being completely eliminated, or whatever that might look like. I don't believe it's healthy or necessary for those things to be completely removed. So to me, it sounds healthy to have a small amount of fear about something so big. And I was actually saying this to a client today. So I feel like maybe that was prompting me for this conversation, which is really cool. Yeah, I feel like it's normal and okay when something so big, something so massive such as death is coming into your radius, for you to have a fear response or an anxiety response. And the difference would be being consumed by it versus not being consumed by it. That's where I'm at. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. Again, I could be wrong. I have been wrong many times before. Okay. So here's some questions. Here's some questions that have been posed for us to think on and talk about. And will I ask all of them? I don't know. I'll ask a few of them. How about that? So that this episode isn't 80,000 years long. The first question is, and I'd love to hear your answers, what is your personal relationship with death? Do you fear it, accept it, or have you been able to embrace it as a part of life? It's something that I've already talked about in this episode. I have some anxiety that resides in my chest when I think about it. And I would say a small amount of existential dread if I'm really thinking about it. And yet I also feel a wave of acceptance and calmness around the idea of dying that I'm not quite fully sure I understand yet, which is why I kept saying, I'm like, I don't know if it's peace. That word doesn't sound entirely accurate. If anybody knows, like I'm talking about it, but if anybody else can figure out what word would be better used, I don't know. I don't know. Okay. Next question. If you had 1 year to live, what would you focus on? What would you change in your life if you knew your time was limited, and what would you prioritize? Oh, wow. If I had 1 year to live. Okay, I'm going to structure this even further so that I can be clear about why I'm answering it this way. If it's solely just me having 1 year to live, it's different than if it's everybody has 1 year left to live, as in the universe or the earth is going to explode or something. So if it's personally just me, I have 1 year to live. I would want to, if I could, conceive. And I would love to have a baby and give birth before I die. I would. And I have a partner who I trust to take care of that baby if that were to be a thing. So that's something that I would love to do. And whilst being pregnant, going and traveling around the world and experiencing everything these beautiful places on our planet have to offer, and the love and energy and community and connectedness of different cultures, and spending quality time with my family and dear friends and having them come with me on these trips. And yeah, yeah, that's what I would do. I'm not so, I was gonna say, I'm not so focused on, if I had my life limited to 1 year focused on making money. At the same time, I'd also love to just ensure that I could leave something behind to care for my family. Um, Not just my partner and my child if I ended up having one, but my family as what, like my parents as well. I'd love to be able to retire them and not put them into an elderly home. I want them to go to a house where they're taken care of by professionals and can live without having to go into a home. So the money thing is important still. How do you do all of that in a year? I do believe I would just eliminate that part though. If I only had 1 year and I wanted to do all of this, I would rather have quality time and love and connectedness prior to dying and gift them that than necessarily money. But if I could do it all, I would. There we go. How about that? I would win the lottery for them. That's what I would do. Okay, that sounds way better. Okay, so that's your question now. If you had 1 year to live, what would you focus on? Okay, let's see. What other one do I want to ask? Interesting. Okay, so there's a lot. Okay, the next question: what role does spirituality or faith play in your understanding of death and life after death? How does your belief system shape your perspective on mortality? And just to be clear, atheism is also, it's an absence of religious spirituality, but it is still a belief system. So what role, if you're atheist, I'm just trying to make sure that I'm like I'm including the full spectrum here because I'm open to all of them. What role does that play in your understanding of death and life after death? For me, I feel so much better knowing that potential, there's a spectrum of potentials that could happen after death. I feel personally better knowing that and knowing them well. So what I've been doing is investing a lot more time into understanding what different belief systems believe happen after death. And it's brought me a lot of groundedness in it. Yeah, probably groundedness in it. Because I could sit there and I could envision it, and it's like, okay. And I just want to keep doing that. And I think I will keep doing that. And maybe as I get older and things change in my life, one will settle in. And I'm also okay if that's not true for me, because everybody's so different. Everybody's so unique. So if that's not true for you either, it's okay. It's okay. I'm just telling you that. Okay, and then the last one. Are there relationships in your life that you would want to heal or deepen before you die? What actions could you take to reconnect or make amends with those you care about? Yeah, I knew after the loss of my partner's parents that I really wanted to put time and energy into my family and make sure that I felt really good and confident and safe and loving in those relationships now, because I don't know when or if those relationships fall off. I mean, I know that I'll lose them, but I don't know if it would be, I don't know if, what if I die first, right? So I'm just basically trying to keep a litmus test of who do I love? Do I feel as though I've shared my love enough with them? What is our relationship? Would I like it to be stronger, deeper? How can I influence that? And yeah, I'd say my favorite one. I mean, I call my grandma almost every week now. I try calling my other grandma as well, but she's just really tired, so that's okay. But I call my one grandma every week now, and or most of the time, not every single week, but mostly every week. And I do call my mom every week, and then I try to talk to my dad every week as well. And I'd say the one that I'm most excited about is my mom, because I'd always wanted to have a relationship with my mom. I just didn't always know if a deep and strong relationship would be possible. And we made a conscious decision to invest time and energy into making it that way. And it worked out really well. And I always think to myself, I'm like, I want my mom to know the most pure, awesome form of love before she dies. Like, that's all I can ever wish for, is for her to be happy and to know she was loved. And so if I can contribute even a small piece to that, I'm happy. I'm a happy little clam. I'm a happy little clam, okay? Okay. Common thoughts or wishes of dying people. And then I'm going to reveal the second most common human fear. I'm excited for that. I haven't looked at it yet. I actually have not looked at it yet. I'm very curious, but I do know it's not clowns. Okay. Common thoughts or wishes of dying people. If this doesn't get us going, I don't know what will. Regret over an unlived life. That's number one. I feel like I've heard that quite a bit. I just didn't realize that was so big. Okay. Many individuals reflect on dreams they didn't pursue, relationships they neglected, or risks they didn't take. They often wish they had been more authentic and true to themselves rather than living according to others' expectations. And then in parentheses, there's a quote that says, I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. That makes me sad. That's my biggest fear, is waking up one day and realizing I did nothing with my life. I cannot imagine how devastating that would be. So that to me is a bigger fear than dying. Okay, number 2, desire for reconciliation. Many express a deep desire to heal broken relationships and make amends before it's too late. This can include seeking forgiveness from others or offering it to those they felt hurt by. And then in quotations, I wish I had reconciled with that person before it was too late. Dang, that's sad. This one's tough too, because I feel like there's definitely people in my life, for example, who have exited, where I feel like I would have liked to, or I would like to heal and make amends. However, I know that they don't, by the way that they left and how they acted and how they treated and all of these things. And so in one part of my heart, I don't know, there's a desire for that reconciliation. At the same time, you can't force people to want to reconcile with you. So I guess maybe this would be on the side of if you had control over reconciling, as opposed to the side that I'm on where I don't get that choice. Okay. Number 3, wish for more time with loved ones. Yeah, I'm already wishing for that. Okay, this is what it says. Often, people express the desire to spend more time with family and friends, prioritizing love and connection over work or material concerns. And then in quotations, I wish I had spent more time with the people that I love. It's actually really interesting. My grandpa, it was his birthday of recent, and I called him and I was talking to him. And I asked him, I always ask people for one slice of wisdom, one thing that they've learned this year within the past years that's really settling in. And he said, time with family or time with loved ones is the most important thing you'll ever have. And you're not going to be able to take anything with you when you die. So sitting and laughing with the people that you love is really the only thing that matters. And I'm like, dang, okay, well, there we go. Confirmation. Confirmation. Number 4, acceptance and peace. Some individuals express a sense of peace with death when they've embraced it as a natural part of life, having accepted the impermanence of existence. In quotes. I am at peace with the life I've lived, and I'm ready to let go. I love that. I hope I can be that. That's what I strive for. Does anybody else strive for that? That's what I'm striving for in life, is just living in such a way that I feel okay to go. You know, I loved the way I wanted to love. I said what I needed to say. I lived the way that I needed to live. And it's okay. Yeah. Number 5, yearning for meaning. Many people dying, or sorry, shoot, read that wrong. Okay. Many dying people reflect on the meaning of their life and whether they've contributed something valuable to the world. They often wish they had found deeper meaning, not just in success or achievement, but in connection and love. In quotes. I wish I had done more meaningful things with my time. That's definitely, again, something that I already have a fear of. So I'm connecting with these. And I'm very much alive. So yes, I can understand this one. I really can. Not necessarily, not just in success or achievement, like it says, not just in success or achievement, but in connection and love. I don't want to wake up 50 years from now and think to myself, wow, I was just dissociated and disconnected, and I had so many opportunities to live big and love big and meet these people and really get to know them, and I was just dissociated the whole time. And now I get the chance now, I guess, when I wake up at that point, but so many years and so many moments and so many things lost. Okay, last one, number 6, gratitude for life. In the face of death, some individuals express a profound appreciation for the beauty of life, no matter how imperfect. And in quotations, I am grateful for the life I've had, even with its struggles. That's cute. That makes me really happy. That's something to look forward to. It's time. For the second most common human fear. You know what's funny? I'm so glad I said at the start what I thought it would be, what I suspected the first one would be, because I was right. It's the second one, though. Okay, the second most common fear is the fear of public speaking. Boom, drop the mic, go to the starting of this episode, like it 20 times, okay? It's called glossophobia. This fear often relates to the fear of judgment, rejection, or not measuring up in front of others, and can trigger feelings of vulnerability and inadequacy. There you have it. Do you struggle with public speaking? Do you have a fear of public speaking? Do you have a fear of death? Or do you have a fear bigger than both of these things? What is it? Do you know where it comes from? And what happens when you're feeling it? I'd love to hear it, because I suspect not everybody falls into those two things. I suspect those things are probably on most people's lists, but it doesn't make them number 1 and 2. So if you have one that's higher than these two, hit me up. I would say fear of death isn't my top one. Definitely not fear of speaking or public speaking. I would say my biggest fear is, waking up one day realizing I had never really lived or done anything with my life or time or connections with people, or just waking up and realizing I was completely distracted for the entirety of my existence. That's my biggest fear. Clowns is up there though, for sure. And I feel like there's a lot of people that are scared of clowns, so I know I'm not alone on that one. I'm not scared of spiders. I'll put them in a cup and put them outside. Sometimes I even let them be in the house because I know that they eat silverfish. I don't like those. If you don't know what they are, Google it. And then I do have a very strange fear of, oh, I don't even know what they're called. Centipedes. There we go. I have a fear of centipedes. Something about it's I can deal with 8 legs. 8 is my limit. That's my limit. Past that point, I'm not okay anymore. Past that point, I'm not okay anymore. I'm a lot better than I was, and then heights is up there. But I still do things that involve heights all the time. And what's really interesting about me, if there's another person in the space or the room or in my life that's scared of those things, but they want to experience something in regards to those things. So let's say somebody else is scared of heights and we're cliff jumping and they're scared of cliff jumping, I will feel empowered to then do the thing to show them that it's okay, even though I'm absolutely terrified of doing the thing. It's like something I have like the fear response and I get literal aches in my hands and my feet. I sweat. I have like a full response to it. And then if somebody comes in and they're like, I'm scared of this thing, and it's the same thing, I all of a sudden lose all of that. I'm like, we're doing it. We've got this. I don't know. I don't know why I am the way I am. I really don't. I really don't, but alas. Okay, well, that's the episode. I believe next episode, don't quote me on this, it's either the next episode or the one following, we're going to be having a special guest. He is a DJ, a dear friend. I'm so excited to have him on to talk about music and have him just share the brain space and chat in depth. But there is a music specific guest episode coming in the next couple of weeks and I am beyond pumped for it. You will love him. And if he is listening, which I hope he is, I'm shouting you out now. I'm speaking this out loud into the universe. Let's get it done. I'm so stoked. Sending each of you love. Bye.